The science of motivation is a fascinating field that intersects psychology, neuroscience, and personal development. When we talk about motivational quotes, most people think they're just inspirational words on a coffee mug or Instagram post. But the reality is much more profound. These aren't just nice sayings. They're powerful tools that can literally rewire your brain's neural pathways and transform how you think, feel, and act. Today, I want to take you on a deep dive into the world of motivational psychology. We'll explore why certain phrases have such a profound impact on our minds, the science behind how they work, and most importantly, how you can harness this knowledge to create lasting change in your life. Everything you've heard about motivational quotes is wrong because they're not just nice words. They're literally rewiring your brain's neural pathways right now. The science behind why certain phrases can completely transform your life is something most people will never understand. But today, that changes. Let's start with what happens in your brain when you encounter a powerful quote. When you read or hear inspirational words, your brain's reward center can actually release dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This creates what researchers call a wisdom buzz, or a quick dopamine hit of inspiration. Have you ever noticed how after reading certain quotes, you suddenly feel energized or ready to take action? That's not just emotional, it's a neurochemical response. Your brain is literally changing its chemistry in response to these words. But here's what's fascinating. Research shows that the structure of the quote itself matters. Quotes that use parallel structure like marry in haste, repent in leisure are perceived as more important. And quotes that rhyme like work for a cause, not applause, live life to express, not to impress, are actually judged as more truthful, even if the content is identical to non-rhyming versions. This is why well-crafted motivational quotes aren't just feel-good statements. They're little triumphs of rhetoric designed to bypass your critical thinking and plant ideas directly into your subconscious mind. They're engineered to be memorable, impactful, and to create lasting changes in how you perceive yourself and the world around you. Now let's explore some of the most powerful motivational quotes ever created and exactly why they work. From Maya Angelou, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." This quote works because it creates a powerful cognitive reframe. Instead of seeing creativity as a limited resource, it presents it as abundant and self-generating. This directly counteracts the scarcity mindset that holds so many people back. I remember when I was struggling with writer's block a few years ago, this quote completely shifted my approach. Instead of waiting for inspiration, I started creating daily, and the more I created, the easier the ideas came. It was like turning on a faucet. The longer it ran, the clearer the water became. From Nelson Mandela, "It always seems impossible until it's done." The power of this quote lies in its acknowledgement of the struggle while simultaneously removing its permanence. Psychologically, it creates what researchers call anticipated regret, making you consider how you'll feel looking back if you don't push through the difficult phase. What seems impossible in your life right now? Remember, that feeling of impossibility is temporary. It's not a fact. It's a perception that will dissolve once you've accomplished what you set out to do. And one of my personal favorites from Michael Jordan: "I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." This quote effectively neutralizes the fear of failure that paralyzes so many people. It reframes failure as not just acceptable, but necessary for success. The categorical statement at the end, "that is why I succeed," creates a cause and effect relationship that embeds directly into your subconscious. Not all motivational quotes work the same way. Research has identified specific types that serve different psychological needs. First, we have imperative command quotes like Nike's "just do it." These quotes bypass deliberation and trigger immediate action impulses. They're perfect when procrastination is your challenge. They work by creating what psychologists call an implementation intention, a direct command to your brain that reduces the gap between intention and action. Second, cause and effect quotes like "what you think, you become" create mental pathways linking actions to outcomes. These are most effective when you need to see the bigger picture. They help establish what neuroscientists call if-then patterns in your brain, strengthening the neural connections between choices and consequences. Third, empowerment you. Quotes like, "You are stronger than you think," provide direct positive feedback and create a sense of social support. These work best when self-doubt is holding you back. They activate the same brain regions that respond to actual social validation, creating a sense of confidence and capability. Let me show you how to match these to your needs. If you're feeling stuck, a command quote helps you break inertia. If you're feeling lost, a cause-effect quote helps you see the path. If you're feeling inadequate, an empowerment quote builds confidence. But here's the critical part most people miss. Research shows that vague, overly generic quotes can actually create frustration rather than motivation. Without measurable standards, quotes like "everything happens for a reason" can promote fuzzy fantasies rather than true growth. Think about this. Are the quotes you currently use giving you specific direction or just temporary emotional comfort? Now let's get practical. How do you actually use motivational quotes to create lasting change in your life? First, personalization is key. Research shows that tailoring quotes to your specific situation drastically increases their effectiveness. Instead of generic collections, build a personal library of quotes that directly address your unique challenges. This creates what psychologists call self-relevance. When your brain recognizes information as personally meaningful, it processes it more deeply and retains it longer. Second, transform powerful quotes into daily affirmations. When you verbalize them yourself, they become first-person statements that your brain processes differently. This activates what neuroscientists call self-directed neuroplasticity, the ability to consciously direct the formation of new neural pathways. Third, strategically place them in your visual environment. The psychological concept of environmental priming shows that repeated exposure to messages in your physical space shapes your unconscious thought patterns. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for cues about how to think and behave. In my own office, I have 3 quotes that rotate weekly, one about creativity, one about persistence, and one about purpose. I found this rotation prevents habituation, where you stop noticing something you see every day. The novelty keeps your brain engaged with the message. Fourth, and this is powerful, pair quotes with visualization. When you read a motivational quote, take 30 seconds to close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself embodying that principle. This creates a neural connection between the abstract concept and concrete behavior. Neuroscience research shows that visualization activates many of the same brain regions as actually performing the action. And here's my final suggestion. Don't just consume quotes, share them mindfully. The act of sharing creates what psychologists call public commitment, which increases your likelihood of living by those principles. When you share a quote with others, you're not just spreading wisdom, you're reinforcing your own commitment to that idea. Before we wrap up, there are important cautions to consider about motivational quotes. Mental health professionals warn that for some people, especially those struggling with depression or anxiety, certain motivational messages can actually increase feelings of inadequacy or isolation. If you're dealing with clinical depression, a quote like, "Happiness is a choice," can feel dismissive of your genuine neurochemical imbalance. Quotes that imply that happiness is simply a choice, or that suggest you should always be positive, can invalidate real struggles and emotions. They can create what psychologists call toxic positivity, the excessive and ineffective overgeneralization of a happy, optimistic state across all situations. Research also shows that excessive consumption of motivational content can create a dependency on external validation rather than building internal motivation. It's like constantly needing a new hit of inspiration rather than developing sustainable internal drive. I've noticed this in my own life. When I find myself constantly seeking new motivational content, it's often because I'm avoiding the harder work of building sustainable habits and systems. It's easier to read another quote than to sit down and do the difficult work of creating lasting change. The healthiest approach is moderation and mindfulness. Be aware of how different quotes make you feel, and recognize that motivation is just one piece of the success puzzle. it needs to be paired with strategy, skill development, and consistent action. We've covered a lot today. From the neuroscience of how motivational quotes affect your brain chemistry to the specific types of quotes that serve different psychological needs. Remember, the words you repeat to yourself are literally shaping your neural pathways and influencing how you see challenges, opportunities, and your own potential. This isn't metaphorical. It's a biological reality backed by decades of neuroscience research. The most powerful quotes aren't just words you read, they're principles you live by. They work not because they're magical, but because they tap into fundamental psychological mechanisms that influence perception, emotion, and behavior. As Wayne Dyer wisely said, change your thoughts and you change your world. That's not just a nice saying, it's a scientific reality about how your brain works. The language you use to describe your experiences literally shapes how you perceive those experiences. I want to leave you with one final thought. Motivation isn't something you find, it's something you create. And understanding the science behind how words impact your brain gives you unprecedented power to engineer your own motivation. The next time you encounter a quote that resonates with you, don't just scroll past it. Take a moment to understand why it impacts you, how it changes your thinking, and most importantly, how you can integrate its wisdom into your daily life. If you found value in today's exploration of motivational psychology, hit that subscribe button and notification bell to join our community of growth-minded individuals. For your primary action today, I'd love for you to share in the comments below the one quote that has had the biggest impact on your life. I read every comment, and your insight might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. And if you want to go deeper, check out the companion workbook in the description that will help you build your personalized motivation system using the principles we covered today. Until next time, remember that the right words at the right time can change everything. I'll see you in the next video.